May is packed with horror releases, and the first one up is Hokum. This Irish folklore horror, directed by Damian McCarthy and starring Adam Scott, follows a writer who travels to scatter his parents' ashes only to find himself trapped in something far more disturbing during his stay at a remote hotel. But the question is, did he bring it all on himself through his own arrogance? Welcome to the Grab Some Popcorn podcast. Your host Jared here. Let's break this one down. Now, getting into what actually works for this movie, there's definitely a lot it gets right, especially on the horror side of things. What works for this movie, for one, are the scares. I was caught off guard a few times since I didn't really watch much of the trailer going in. I like to keep things fresh like that, so it hits harder for me in the moment. I think it nailed the tone and atmosphere really well. This creepy hotel setting with these sketchy people working there just feels uneasy from the start. And the sound design really added to that. Things like whispers, distant chatter, bells randomly going off. It all kept me on edge the whole time. It's the kind of movie that understands how to build tension without over-explaining things. And honestly, this feels like a straight-up horror movie from start to finish. It never really tries to shift into anything else or lose its identity, and I appreciated that a lot. Now, as strong as the atmosphere and scares are, I definitely have a few issues with the movie that held it back for me. For starters, Adam Scott does a solid job in the role, but his character is really unlikable. He's arrogant, dismissive, and just overall hard to root for at times. And while that does technically serve the story, because his attitude definitely pushes certain events forward, it's a different approach than what you'd expect from a film dealing with grief. Normally in a story like this, you'd expect a character you could emotionally latch on to or sympathize with in some way, but here that's kind of difficult. Another gripe I had was the disconnect between the witch and the actual themes of the movie. A major theme here is grief, and I think the film would have been stronger if the witch was more directly tied to that emotional core instead of just feeling like a witch in the basement. Think of the movie like The Babadook. The monster there is clearly tied to grief, depression, and resentment towards motherhood. It's almost impossible to separate the creature from the emotion it represents. But in this movie, the real emotional weight feels like it comes from Adam Scott's character himself, not the witch. So the witch ends up feeling more like an external horror element rather than something that's actually a part of the emotional story. And I also wasn't fully sold on the ending. It felt a bit confusing and honestly slightly unearned because our main character doesn't really have a clear verbal moment of revelation or confession. I'm trying to keep things vague for now without spoiling it, but that was another thing that didn't land for me. Overall, I thought Hokum was a very solid horror movie. If I were putting together a top 5 horror list for the year, I can confidently say this will make it onto that list. Not number 1, but definitely in the conversation. It really nails the horror elements, the atmosphere, the tension, and the scares all work in its favor. But where it falls a bit short is in fully connecting the themes it's trying to explore, especially around the grief and its emotional core. So with that said, I'm going to give Hokum a 6.5 out of 10. I do recommend it, especially if you're into atmospheric horror, but it's not something you need to rush out and go see immediately. Watch it when you get the chance. Alright, y'all, that's all I got for Hokum. Be sure to comment. Let me know what you thought of the review. Let me know what you thought of the movie. And be sure to like and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one.